Hi guys, welcome back to 100% Mad. So here is your Premier League preview for the 18-19 campaign. Now I'm going to start off with Southampton. Now I think that they haven't really recruited too well in the transfer window. They've brought in some players like Stuart Armstrong from Celtic for 7 million, Liso from Ball for 16 million, and then Van der Gaar from Mönchengladbach for 18 million. But even though they've signed them players, I still think they're going to have pretty tough seasons, so that's why I have picked them to end 20th. Now, moving on to the next team, it's going to be Cardiff City, first season back in the Premier League in a long time, and under the leadership as well of Neil Warnock. He doesn't have a very good track record as a Premier League manager, with most of his teams, if not all of his teams, getting relegated from the Premier League in their first seasons up. So with that in mind, and the fact that they haven't really recruited Premier League quality players, and they've got some Championship players in the likes of Josh Murphy, Jacob Murphy's brother, who plays for Newcastle, and also they've brought in some other Championship quality players like Bobby Reid as well from Bristol City. I just don't think Cardiff's going to have that quality amount of serious attack on the Premier League, so that's why I'm going to pick them for 19th. Moving on to the next team now, and it's Watford. I think they're going to have a pretty tough season as well. They haven't really recruited too well, and I think with that in mind, they're going to finish 18th. Now, moving on to the next team, and that is Palace. They didn't have a very good season at all last season. With that massive, big, long streak where they just could not get a win at all, and they couldn't get a goal in that period at all neither, with them losing quite a lot of their games, like 1-0, 2-0 and such forth. But I think this window, they've done alright in the transfer window. They've signed at least one amazing player, in my opinion, in Max Meyer, who I wanted to see at my club, Newcastle, of course. But he ended up going to Crystal Palace. Newcastle were never in form in the first place anyway. But Palace got him. But even though they've got him, I still think they are going to finish quite low. And that's why I've picked them for 17th. Moving on to the next team now, and it is Brighton. Now, Brighton I've picked for to finish 16th, even though they did put somewhat of a performance in last season, but I just think it's going to be pretty much catchy time for Houghton. Non-offence, of course, because I absolutely adore Houghton as a manager. He was an absolutely amazing manager for Newcastle, and probably the second best manager in a long time behind Rafa Benitez. Now, that's why I've picked Brighton to finish 16th. Now, moving on to 15th place, and I've picked Wolves here. Now, Wolves have made some pretty amazing signings in the transfer window so far, with Rui Patricio, Jean Martino, Raul Jimenez, just a whole bunch of really, really big world-class names that's been playing in the European football, and that's why I think it's going to be tough, even though they've signed them players for them in the Premier League, and I'm going to pick them for 15th in the league. Now, moving on to Bournemouth, I think Eddie Howe is a great manager. He can always get something out of Bournemouth, but I think this season they're going to have a bit of a tough season, and I think that's why I'm going to pick them to finish 14th. Now, moving on to the next team, which is Burnley. Now, Burnley, as we all know, last season had a great season under Sean Dyche. They did an absolutely amazing season, and that's why they'll be playing in Europe this season. But with that in mind, that's why I think it's going to be a tough season for Burnley this season, and that is why I am going to put them down at 13th. Now, the next team up is my team, Newcastle United. Now, with the way Mike Ashley's been going at the minute, with the whole money saga and everything on and off the pitch for Newcastle in performances wise, and just everything in general, I think it's going to be a pretty tough season for we. I can't say we're getting relegated. We might if Rafa was to walk, but if Rafa stays and he does the job and sees it through to the end of his contract like he has promised, which I know for a fact Rafa will do because he's a gentleman and he always sticks to his word. With that in mind, I'm going to say Newcastle to finish 12th. Moving on now to the next team, and that is Huddersfield. Now, David Wagner has been having an amazing time as the manager of Huddersfield. Them putting in performances right, left and centre. And, sorry about that. And last season they had a not a bad season, but not a great season. And with the way they've recruited in the transfer window as well, they've brought in some pretty good players. Now they've brought in Terence N'Golo from Monaco, pretty good signing there. Bakuna from FC Groningen as well. Then they've got Lossi as well from Mans. They've also brought in Hammer as well. So some pretty good signings for Huddersfield. With that in mind, I think they could finish 11th in the league. Moving on to Fulham. Now, Fulham have done really well in the transfer market. They've brought in Alexander Mitrovic, Alfie Mawson, Andre Schürrle as well from Borussia Dortmund on loan for 2 years, I think it is. I think it's a 2-year loan. So they've done pretty well in the transfer market, and with all of that in mind, in the way the owner really wants to keep them in the Premier League, I'm going to go with Fulham to finish 10th. Now moving on to the next team, and it's going to be Leicester. Now Leicester, as we all know, won the Premier League quite a few years back now, but they've recruited pretty well in the window as well, bringing in Ricardo Pereira from Porto, Johnny Evans from West Brom, Danny Ward from Liverpool for £12.5 million, James Maddison as well from Norwich for £22 million, and Jalisi from Monaco as well for an undisclosed fee. Of course, yeah, they've lost Riyad Mahrez to Man City for £60 million, and a few other players like Rob Hoof have been released as well in that. But at the end of the day, I think Leicester's still going to push and have a pretty good season, and that's why I've picked them to finish 9th. Now moving on to West Ham with their new manager in Manuel Pellegrini. Now he has had a great season and great backing so far from the West Ham owners, and the players he's brought in is just absolutely sensational, I've got to say. West Ham's really wanted to move forward here, and it's credit to what the fans did really last season, running on the pitch and protesting about the way the owners were running the club. Now, because they've done that, West Ham's owners have went out, they've got the world-class manager Manuel Pellegrini, and now they have brought in some world-class players in Yarmolenko, Jack Wilshere, Fabianski, Philip Anderson, also Alexandre Silva of Victor Gomez as well. All pretty good players. Yarmolenko, absolutely sensational player, and I can't wait to see him playing in the Premier League, even if it is for West Ham. Jack Wilshere, wanted to see him join Newcastle. He ended up going to West Ham, of course. So for that reason in mind, I'm going to put them at 8th in the Premier League. Now moving on to the next team, Everton. They've spent pretty big in the window as well, bringing in Richarlison for £50 million. So with all of that said, I am going to put them down at 7th in the Premier League. Now moving on to the next team, and it is into the top 6 teams here. So we are going to start off with Spurs. Now, Spurs are going to be missing 9 of their first teamers when they take on Newcastle on Saturday, and Harry Kane could be missing that game. And with all of that in mind, I'm going to put Spurs down at 6th in the table to finish, with the way most of their players were involved in the latter stages of the World Cup. I think their fitness levels are going to be pretty low, and that's going to put a bit of a downer on Spurs' season so far, so that's why I think they're going to only finish 6th. So we'll move on to the next team, and it's going to be Arsenal. Now, I think Arsenal's going to steal the 5th place. Unai Emery, for the first season as well, is going to be the manager for Arsenal. He's brought in some alright players so far for Arsenal. He's brought in Bernd Leno from Leverkusen. He's brought in Lichtsteiner from Juve for free. Mind you, he's brought in Papa Theodopoulos from Borussia Mönchengladbach, and he's brought in a few other players as well, 2 other signings on top of them ones. Now, with that said, I think they're going to finish 5th. Moving on to Man United. Now, I think Man U's going to finish in 4th place. They haven't really recruited too well in the transfer window, and I think with all that said, in the way Man United played last season as well, I think they're going to finish 5th. Moving on to 3rd, and I think Chelsea are going to finish there. They haven't spent too well in the window, and with the looming talk of Eden Hazard moving to Real Madrid as well, and with the transfer window closing tomorrow, and the other clubs like Real Madrid and that still being able to buy after that period, Chelsea could be starting the season without Eden Hazard, and with that in mind, I'm choosing Chelsea to finish 3rd. Now, Man City and Liverpool, this is going to be a tough one in my opinion, because it's hard to choose between the two. They've both spent really well in the window, with Liverpool bringing in some pretty good players and Man City also bringing in some pretty good players. Now, first up, we're going to have a look at Liverpool and who they've brought in. Now, they've brought in Naby Keita from Leipzig for 52 million. They've also brought in Fabio of Monaco for 43 million, Shaqiri for 13.5, Alisson Becker from Roma for 67 million, a record signing as well, and Isaac Christie Davis from Chelsea on a free. Now, with them bringing in them players, Klopp has really funded well in the window, and he's really wanting to push for that Premier League title this season. But then Man City have brought in Riyad Mahrez from Leicester for 60 million, Claudio Gomez from PSG for free, and Philip Sadler as well from PEC as well on an undisclosed fee. So the way it's going to be for the top 2, in my opinion, is Man City are going to finish 2nd, Liverpool are going to finish 1st. And that has been my Premier League preview for the 18-19 campaign. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Let us know where you think the teams will end as well. I'll put a list down of first right the way through to 20th, and then just put the names of the teams that you think will finish in that place in the comments below. Until next time, remember, like, share, subscribe to 100% Mags. You've been watching 100% Mags, and I'll see you next time.